The NHL Draft Combine is underway. We have ourselves media, personnel, teams, all going out there into the... Oh my goodness, I should have researched this beforehand. Where is the NHL Draft Combine this year? Yes, where is it? It's in Buffalo. Okay, KeyBank Arena and Harbor Center in Buffalo. Sorry, I did not research that beforehand, but... we have ourselves a whole bunch of media talking to the prospects and tweeting, publishing, writing articles about what they're saying. And when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens' projected first overall pick, Shane Wright, there is a few things that we can talk about when it comes to Wright and his perspective on the Canadiens. Now, I gotta say this here too, it's not only Wright that has been asked questions about Montreal. You have other prospects like Slavkovsky who have said things about playing with guys like Suzuki, etc. It's kind of interesting seeing the multiverse of combinations of things that could happen. I had to throw that in there because, yeah, I'm a very big Spider-Man fan. I grew up with Tobey Maguire, and it was an absolute treat to see him on the big screen once again. But all multiverse references aside, let's try to focus on the universe that we have, and the universe where we'll likely see Montreal take Shane Wright with the first overall pick. Sorry, Slavkovsky, that's a video for another day. We have ourselves some comments that Shane made about the Canadiens, and I wanted to talk about them here with you, courtesy of Anthony Martino on his Twitter account. I think most of you know who this guy is. He works for TVA Sports. He published a few quotes in French, but I used the Google machine to translate these into English because, as most of the longer-time viewers of this channel know, even though I did graduate grade 12 with a 90... what was it, a 93, 94? I think it was a 95, actually, in French. I did not carry that. It's been 4 years since then, and I haven't really spoken too much French, aside from the 1 or 2 times I'm asked to in stream, but either way, let's go over what Martino has to say in regards to his interview and conversation that he had with Shane Wright. Starting out with this comment right here. People who talk about me as a player who lack intensity do not understand the way I play. I'm a cerebral and methodical guy. I choose my moments to explode. That has been one of the main concerns that Shane Wright has had to deal with when it comes to people talking about him in the media. This is a guy that does not have the same X factor. He doesn't come alive, and he doesn't reinvigorate or spark up a play like Connor McDavid or Matthews does. This is not the type of game that Shane Wright plays. There are some players in the NHL who are very successful, but who do not have that explosivity and that quality to absolutely charge up a shift, you know? Shane Wright is not that player. He's a lot more methodical. He succeeds because he's smart, and he succeeds because out there on the ice, he just knows what he needs to do, where he needs to go, and how to react to players. He's a lot more of a reactive kind of guy than he is somebody who pushes the play himself like Connor McDavid. Shane Wright is the player that when you throw him into the offensive zone, he can look at the situation, analyze where everybody is, analyze where the puck is, and where he needs to go beyond that. He's a lot more of a reactor and methodical player, and his hockey smarts really do play into what makes him such a special talent. Those are the kinds of qualities that translate into the NHL. Sure, he might not have the best foot speed, he might not have the best defensive coverage, he might not have the best numbers comparative to other players who were first overall from the CHL. But Shane Wright is a smart as heck hockey player, and he's really going to help out the Montreal Canadiens in that respect because hockey intensity, or excuse me, not hockey intensity, sorry. I saw the tweet and I had the word intensity in my mind. Hockey IQ does not go away as you get older. In fact, you could say it gets better. Here is another tweet from Anthony Martino on the Shane Wright conversation he had. Yes, the pandemic has clearly affected my development, and the reason why this is a really important thing to note is because you have to remember, back when Shane Wright was 15 in the OHL, 2019-20, so 2 years ago, he had made his rookie season known amongst hockey fans as being better than Connor McDavid's. He had 66 points in 58 games played. McDavid did not have as high of a points per game number. That's why a lot of people back then were saying, oh my goodness, this guy is so good. He's going to become a fantastic franchise caliber player in the National Hockey League. Look at how good this Shane Wright guy is. And then the pandemic came around, and he did not play a single OHL second in 2020-2021. He played 5 games for Team Canada at the World Under-18s. He had 14 points. He had 3 points a game, and he had 9 goals. He was a fantastic sniper where he just showcased all of his skills. And a lot of people were like, oh yeah, okay, even though he hasn't played OHL hockey in a year, yeah, he's still a good player. Don't get me wrong. Then he played this season, his first time playing against OHL competition in over a year, and he had 94 points in 63 games. Again, the points per game is lower than other CHL first overall guys. It's not as high as McDavid's when he was drafted in 2015, not as high as Lafreniere's in 2020, not as high as who the heck else was there. McKinnon in 2013, you had Nugent Hopkins in 2011, all that stuff. You know what it's going on, right? The point per game number was not that high. It's the lowest point per game number since, I believe, Rick Nash, when he went first overall like 20 years ago. But you gotta remember that he had a complete year of his development removed, which is why I think it's important to note that the pandemic has affected his development. When it comes to the Canadiens and players that Shane Wright would want to play with, he says Cole Caulfield. All center players dream of a scorer like him, and Brendan Gallagher for his extraordinary and contagious passion. I love the way he says that over here. When it comes to Cole Caulfield and the scoring ability that he has, you could argue that Shane Wright has that same scoring ability too, and we saw that at the U18s last year. Sure, did he absolutely score the lights out with goals this year in the OHL? Probably not to the same capacity as you would have wanted him to, but 32 goals in 63 games is definitely good enough. And of course, Brendan Gallagher, you know, the extraordinary and contagious passion he has. Everybody in Montreal is familiar with this quality of his game. Going over to the other question that Martino wrote about here on Twitter, Shane Wright was asked if he has a message for any Canadiens fans. If I have the opportunity to play for your team, I will give everything I have. I want to give you championships, and I will do everything to achieve it. So there you go, Montreal. That's Shane Wright and his message to the Habs faithful from yesterday's draft combine. He wants to give the Canadiens a championship, and he'll do everything in his power to get that done. We'll wrap things up in this video with one more comment that Martino ended up making. By the way, Wright and Slafkovsky are very physically mature. I suspect that Wright would be able to pulverize watermelons with his thighs. Now, that's some pretty interesting imagery to be thinking about right there, you know, Shane Wright shoving a watermelon in there and just like crunching it. Yeah, I'm gonna probably stop talking about that. But this guy's really physically fit, especially for a 17, 18-year-old athlete who is likely going to be coming into the National Hockey League next season because, let's face it, it's been ages since a CHL first overall guy has not made the jump to the National Hockey League immediately after getting drafted. We talked about this in a previous video, but the two guys that recently did it, in the past 20 years at least, they were both defensemen, and they were both in college. It was Johnson and who was the other one? Owen Power. My goodness, how did that escape me? Either way, forwards always make the jump, and Montreal is likely going to see Shane Wright suiting up for their team next season. Talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about what we have discussed here, the comments that Wright made, the perspectives that we have talked about when it comes to his season not being as quote-unquote good as you would have wanted it to be, the methodical nature to his game, the sniping ability, and what he wants to see out of guys like Caulfield and Gallagher. Also the fact that the pandemic really did shape up his season, or not his season, but his draft stock in a pretty negative way. Do you have any new thoughts on Shane Wright after hearing his own comments about the development path that he has taken down before heading over to the Montreal Canadiens, assuming he does go first overall? I mean, if we actually see the Canadiens take Slafkovsky, then I guess we're going to have to retcon all the videos that we made here and try to make new ones saying how good Slafkovsky is going to be as a first overall player. But either way, talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about the draft combine, the interviews, the media, all the stuff that we have seen. There's a lot more other stuff that Martino posts on his Twitter account, conversations he has with Trystan Luneau, Logan Cooley, Slafkovsky. Go ahead, check out his Twitter, because as a TVA guy, he gets access to a lot of these prospects and makes the best out of those opportunities. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Shane Wright, what are your thoughts on what we talked about today? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.